What's going on, YouTube? Peace. KJ is back at it again. All right, so today we're going to go into spiritual awakening and relationships. We're going to go into sexual dynamics between the masculine energy and the feminine energy, the man and the woman, as it translates into the human experience, right? Let's think about this for a second, because there's a lot of propaganda surrounding both sexes. For the men, you obviously have that TRP stuff going on, and for women, it has been the feminism going on. Let's just be real. Let's just call it for what it is. Those are what have evolved out of the craziness that's been happening for decades now. The agenda and the propaganda to separate man from woman. And we have to look at why that is. You know, is it to limit the amount of babies being born in certain communities, like the black community or whatever the case may be? Is it to limit that? Is it to limit the amount of love? Because when you're not in a state of love, you are easier to be controlled, especially if you live in a state of fear or lower emotions. It's easier to control you. Is it to separate man from woman, to eliminate marriage, to eliminate sacred union, to introduce, same-sex relationships, to introduce transgenderism, right? It could be a mix of any of those things. Many of those things have been around for centuries, for millions of years. Those aren't even, some of these things aren't even issues in terms of the same sex or in terms of the transgenderism. But what is an issue is the separation of the masculine and feminine energy, the separation of the man and the woman, based off the mindsets that we pick up. When they introduce those other factors, that's simply to gain control of you and put you in a box of something that you would never possibly do. There's nothing wrong with people being gay. There's nothing wrong with people going transgender if that's their own choice. But when you get mind controlled into making a choice against your own will, that's different. And I would be lying if I said it wasn't prevalent in the media, that these things, and they're not prevalent in the media. It's almost like every time you turn the music on or you watch TV show, it's trying to take you somewhere. It's trying to take your perception somewhere. If you're a certain person, or if and this is exactly why when you first get into this, you have to learn how to detach yourself from the world that you've been living in for a while. And this can affect relationships, because every time we look at relationships, a lot of times, especially based off of movies, you get made to feel like you're missing out on something when they display a fantasy in front of you. And we all deserve the best of the best, because truly within ourselves, if we really tap into ourselves, we will find the best of the best. And that's what us finding that is what allows us to receive that, when we find the best in ourselves. So you can't offer that to somebody else until you've done so. And this is the problem that we encounter, because this is exactly, a lot of people will feel like they don't have to do all that work to find or to experience love, to find or experience the best relationship for themselves. And we have to also have to get out the mindset that love and relationships are two different things. Relationships are agreements made by parties involved to live life a certain way together, whether it's two parties or multiple parties. That's what a relationship is. It's an agreement. And if love is involved between, the spouses, then that's different. That can be included too. But at the end of the day, love is a much more multidimensional thing. And so for a lot of people feel like they don't have to do the inner work. And this is where problems come in, because when you're not conscious, your way of dealing with things is projecting it to the world outside of you, blaming the world outside of you for being the way that it is. blaming men, all men for being a certain way, blaming all women for being a certain way, projecting your own insecurity based off of a trauma that you've experienced. You know, I myself have experienced plenty of trauma with women, and I have never let it, you know, taint my perception. And at least those, I've never let it completely taint my perception. Right? I have definitely, when it came to the early years of TRP, I did take in a lot of lessons, but I couldn't always follow it wholeheartedly because it was damaging trying to do that. It was damaging trying to put that on other people. There were times where, yeah, okay, did I try to apply some of the principles? Yes, but it didn't exactly help out my life. It actually made things a lot harder. But what ended up happening though was it got rid of people who really weren't supposed to be in my life. But that was as a result of me awakening at the time and understand type of people that were trying to parasite off my energy. You know, people wanting to be in my life, but wanting to use me for something. And we have to be aware, especially when we become conscious, aware of who's in our lives. Always be aware of that. And when you come across new information, you have to listen to the way that people are framing what they're talking to you about. Not what they're saying, but how they're saying it. And this is the exact opposite of when you interact with people in real life. But when you interact with information or propaganda or group thought online, listen to how it's being said and the way that it's being displayed, the way that the ideas are being displayed. You have to listen to that. Then listen to the words later if you decide it's something that you want to take in, because you can see the people's bias in the way that they're talking about relationships, in the way that they're talking about certain ways of thought. And if you looked into any type of quote unquote conspiracy and you search for other articles or opinions online, you know what I'm talking about. You know the way that it's framed a certain way so that if you think against the grain, it sounds messed up, or you know you get made to look stupid if you display a type of alternative thought. So when you come into these circles where it's women saying that they're claiming that they're empowering women, or men claiming that they're empowering men, look at these people and really see the type of credentials that they have. And I'm not talking about degrees, but listen, because a lot of the times they're projecting their own hurt, and that's the type of energy that can go viral. Because that type of energy is tapping in to what the masses experience, and the masses are not ready to go beyond their lower chakras right now. Let's just keep it real. We're getting there, or they're getting there, because I'm not one of you, but they're getting there. But in essence, there's still work that needs to be done, and the work that needs to be done does not involve trying to put all your shit on other people. When you make the decision to get better, you don't blame others for you being in a situation that ultimately you're in charge of being in. Because at the end of the day, you made the decision to stay there at some point. So what these circles, TRP, feminism do is they tap into that hurt. They tap into that experience. I was just talking to somebody the other day about how a lot of the negativity that short men face is self-inflicted. And that's true. I'm 5'9", which I consider as average height. Some people could say it's short. Some people could say it's tall. I really don't care. Right? And I've never had an experience where I've been made to feel insecure about my own height. Well, even if somebody has said I was short compared to them or compared to what they believe tall is, because ultimately my self-perception isn't tied to my outer appearance. My self-esteem isn't tied to my outer appearance. And I'm not, whether if somebody were to gratify me over my height, I wouldn't take that to so close to heart, because at the end of the day, it's something physical. It has nothing to do with who I really am. Who I really am is on the screen. Who I really am reflects in my work, reflects in my books, reflects in my creativity. That's who I really am. Reflects in my spiritual work. That's the type of mindset that not just men, but women need to have too. If you're spiritual, if you say you're conscious, it's not based off of your outer appearance. It's not based off of wearing, the nicest clothes. It's not based off of having the biggest titties, the biggest ass, attracting people, having people fall head over heels for you. It's not based off of that. It's not based off of being 6'5". A lot of your perception is based off of what you think other people would like. And so you do everything in your power to fit that bill. And in doing everything in your power to fit that bill, none of that has anything to do with the other person or who you seek to attract. You will do it all for you, and attracting that person is meant to gratify you, to make you feel like you did something good, to experience something good, to satisfy yourself, right? And you would have never said a word to this person, or before you approach this person, right? But you'll go all out and you won't display any parts of yourself. And there's a reason why they show in these movies, when the person just decides to be themselves, then they find or they experience the love that they really deserve, that they didn't even know that they wanted, right? And that's a deficiency in the sacral chakra, when you go all out, just to gratify yourself. And we like to mask it being like, oh, I'm really attracted to that girl, or I'm really attracted to that guy, I really like them, blah blah. Meanwhile, you've never said a word to this person, right? But you've done all these things for your outward appearance to attract that person. Not saying, you can't be attractive, but I mean, when you're going all out, instead of just being you. And it's mainly for the dudes too, because a lot of times the dudes would do the most instead of just showing up, showing up genuine. That's what really matters. It's not about the car you drive, fam. It's not about the social status. It's not about the bag. The bag you should already have taken care of in some way, shape, or form. That has nothing to do with the opposite sex, fam. Is it alluring? Probably. But ultimately, when you're coming to a conscious space, you have to let go of that perception, because that's exactly what these circles will teach you. They'll teach you all about the ego and how to tap into that and master that. This is all greed. This is all the root chakra. That's what I'm saying. When you take what they say with a grain of salt, take what I say with a grain of salt, and make it your own. Because what they'll tell you men, is to focus on money, social status, and your physical appearance. And that'll be what gets you the guts. And just the fact that we're thinking of that, in that lens, that frame of mind is wrong in and of itself. Because instead of just thinking of women as women, now we're just seeing them as the guts. When did our mindset shift from seeing women as individuals to seeing them as just guts? you know. And on top of that, why do you have to go and be something, probably be something that you're not, just to attract that, just to get exactly what you want? Why are you going that far? Why are you tying your self-worth to your status, which is completely based off of what other people think about you? Did you know you could start your own trend to be your own person? Instead of just worrying about social status, instead of just doing things just to do things. It's not about being famous or having everybody like you, but you start your own trend. You do what's true to your heart. That's what your own trend is, fam. My guy. You know, and that'll attract the right people to you, not the guts, but the right people to you. People that you fuck with. The real crew. Not just other people of the same mindset, but people you can really work with, build upon, build with, grow forward with. Because if you're conscious, that should be the translation of social status, at least, at the very least. Shouldn't be about what others think about you. It should be about your status within yourself, the way that you view yourself. Because when you stay doing things for other people, you'll never measure up. You'll always feel insecure. Your self-esteem can't be tied to other people. And this goes for women too, by the way. This goes for women too. Because it's clear that the status as a, you know, the sex appeal status is a thing. You know, and I hear all the time, you know, dudes like, well, why can't the girl just be who she is instead of, you know, being a clone? You know, or most of the girls are kind of dressing the same, looking the same, this and that, doing the same things, hoeing out, whatever the case may be. No problem with hoeing out, but I'm talking about fitting that mold. Same way that guys are trying to fit that mold of what a successful man is supposed to be, the ideal man is supposed to be. Women are trying to fit the mold of what an ideal woman is supposed to be. You know, traditional things or different thought process, femininity isn't looked at as something ideal anymore. It's looked at as something that isn't just, it just doesn't fit anymore. It's not good for the society. And that's the issue in and of itself. And on top of that, the women's sexuality is also oppressed too, from a male point of view, because now she can't do what she wants to do. She can't really be true to herself. She has to always wear a mask. Why is that the case? Instead of honoring the sacred, sexual, feminine, Christianity has taught you to oppress it. Islam has taught you to oppress it. Judaism has taught you to oppress it, has taught you to put it away. It's taught you to only favor the woman behind the veil, or not include her at all. Right? That's the patriarchal side of things. Things have gotten way out of hand. And so the absence of that, if you read the Sacred Prostitute book, get that book. If you read that, it tells you that the absence of the sacred sexuality of the woman, honoring it, revering it, implementing it, because it does exist in those religions and the sacred ancient sciences that they come from, ancient thought that they come from, but it's ripped out in the mainstream religion because it's empowering. Because it's hard to control. It's hard to control male sexuality. So you really think that they're going to want you to tap into female sexuality and y'all to be in a sexual union spiritually? Really? Oh, no. That's too much. That's why mind control needs to be crafted. to stop that from happening, to put you in an overactive state of lust, greed, pride, and gratification, self-gratification, so that on both sides, male and female, so that you don't go into the higher chakras. You're not thinking on a higher level. Your sexuality isn't on a higher level. Your creativity isn't on a higher level. Your ability to connect, to feel, to love yourself and others isn't on a higher level. It is all tied based to things, to physical things in this matrix. And while I'm saying that, you better get a book on chakras if you haven't already, especially if you're new to spirituality. You need to get a book on chakras. It's absolutely more than just one book. You need to get different forms of thought. I'd say get at least 5 beginner books on chakras, because if you don't do the chakra work, especially on your lower chakras, you're not going to get anywhere spiritually. That's a fact. Those are facts. And why do I know? Because I work on my chakras consistently, and the only way that I can get somewhere spiritually is if I maintain that constant emotional work, that constant emotional evolution and balancing myself. How are you going to get anywhere spiritually if you're not emotionally balanced? They tell you all the time, a man that can't control his emotions is a destructive man. A woman that can't control her emotions is done. Naturally, women do have better control over their emotions. It's men that hide it too much. And when you hide something, you suppress something, it builds up and it consumes you. You can't live a life running away from your emotional state. You can't live a life running away from your traumas, sexual and relationship traumas. The way that you dealt with and perceive with women. Like I said, they are tapping into your traumas. They are tapping into your emotional state. That's exactly why they have to make a statement every time they release a movie, every time they release a video game, every time they release some form of media. Think about the Mario movie. Peach and Mario are supposed to be cuffed. And that Mario movie, she, you know what I'm saying? She didn't need no man. And she had, since she was a Mary Sue, which means that she was a character that was just strong, knew things, but had no depth. She was a flat character in that movie. What was originally supposed to be a portrayal of the feminine has now become too masculine to show that union on screen. Even in Caucasian Hollywood, right? And don't get me started on all the other movies, because again, movies and TV shows, again, they always have to show that there's an imbalance, that there's some type of dynamic, right? Some type of dynamic where the woman is more intelligent than the man, and that he looks dumb next to her, you know what I'm saying? Ways of breaking down your intelligence over time. And they'll do it on screen, because if they do it on screen, your brain, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what isn't. So they're programming you with that perception in Family Guy, in The Simpsons, in American Dad. Programming you with that perception to create an agenda of the battle of the sexes. Every single time, every single chance that is possible. There's always some sort of infighting. There's always some sort of divide and conquer going on. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to fall victim to it? Because if you're conscious, you really shouldn't. You shouldn't really be buying into it. Shouldn't even be registering in your mind. Are you going to join a movement to try to stop all of it, to try to speak out against it? Are you going to join this big group to speak out against it? Post on Reddit to see if you can change the world? Get into an argument with somebody in the YouTube comment section, in a Reddit thread? You know, that's beneath you if you're conscious. Let's just keep it a buck. It's beneath you. And so, and this is what will happen. There's a battle on both sides. So where there's massive strengths for one, there's going to be massive strengths for the other. There has to be some type of agenda on both sides so that the clash continues, where people are just blaming each other. And at the end of the day, it really just goes back to the relationship that you had with the male figures and the female figures in your life, especially your mother and your father, whether they were there, whether they weren't, whether they were abusive, whether they weren't. Your teachers, your brothers, your sisters. That's what it goes back to. Until you learn how to deal with that, or, especially your first boyfriend or girlfriend, or the first person that you liked, until you learn how to deal with that, you're always going to encounter some of the same things over and over again. Tell me if I'm lying. Because people who are experienced with inner work will tell you that, no, that's facts. That's absolutely facts. And because you keep seeing the same things over and over again, it's easy for you to blame the world outside of you for why you're going through or why life is a certain way. It's easy because you have a lot of reinforcement for being a victim in this life. If I wanted to find all the reinforcement in the world for why women aren't shit, I can just type it in on YouTube and have a fucking field day. You know, especially based off a lot of the shit that I went through. If I really wanted to tap into that victimhood, I really could. But instead of doing that, instead of feeding that, instead of making it grow, I chose to grow and leave it behind. My mother was an abusive alcoholic, still is. I don't interact with her anymore. I had to leave that behind. But instead of taking it out on every other woman that I met, I chose to find in other women what I couldn't find in my mother. Women that cared about me. And yes, I'm divorced now, and I have a great relationship with my ex-wife, but and that's partly due to the communication, partly due to me changing my mindset and being able to find in her the shortcomings that my mother didn't have or didn't meet. And also being able to release my mother from all of what I expected her to be. Because you're putting too much pressure on one person, too much pressure on one group of people, when you got to take responsibility and distribute it evenly. When we release what's been holding us back, it opens up the door to a life you didn't realize was there, an abundance of love that you didn't realize was there. That's facts. And that's why I always recommend the same books over and over again. And I'm probably going to continue doing it till I'm blue in the face. I still read a lot of books, but there's plenty of sources and plenty of great things that I've gotten out of letting go, that I've gotten out of breaking the habit of being yourself, that I've gotten out of the chakra books that I've read, that I've gotten out of source information like Gnosticism. And honestly, even through the religious texts like the Quran, the Bible, and I've still gotten stuff out of it in terms of my relationships. If you have a problem with women, it's because you have a problem with your own feminine energy. That's just real. Yes, does it tie back to your mother? Sure. Does it tie back to your sister? Sure. Does it tie back to your first girlfriend? Sure. At the end of the day, the common denominator in all those things is feminine energy. And that's inside of you. Whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, that's inside of you. So until you learn how to heal that, until you learn how to let go of those experiences and really open up to letting that energy flow again, you're always going to have problems. We got to stop seeing people as objects and start seeing people as individuals. But first, you have to see yourself as an individual who deserves to move forward, who deserves to live in a life, to live in a world free from the negative perception that you've had before. Because we say that this is a matrix, this is an illusion all the time, that none of this is real, that all of this is being projected from our minds. The first law of Tahuti is that the mind is all and all is the mind. So if this is all from your mind, then you are absolutely responsible for the world that you live in. If this is all a hologram and everything is based off the hologram that your perception that you're choosing to see this world in, then you are absolutely responsible. Why do you think that people who have issues, when they say men aren't shit, women aren't shit, they always experience the same thing? And then they keep saying it. It's a mantra to keep that matrix going. They've created an entity to keep that same matrix going. Do you understand what I'm telling you now? If you don't understand it by now, allow me to elaborate to make it simpler. It's all based off of what you keep telling yourself. It's all based off of whether you keep giving in to those negative emotional experiences, giving in to that trauma. That's why it shows up to test you so many times. It's crazy how people will get out of a relationship with an abusive person and get back into a relationship with another abusive person. Like they don't see the signs, like spirit's not speaking to them, showing them signs early. You knew early. I've had things where I knew early the people were gonna be messed up. And I fell for it because I allowed myself to. Didn't happen for that long because I was at a certain level of awareness, but did I have to have an honest conversation with myself as to why I allowed that to happen? Yes. Absolutely yes. And these mistakes, don't see them as mistakes, see them as lessons. Because it might take you 3 times, 3 experiences to go through the same thing. Because in those 3 experiences, you can pull back something divine. But you can't pull back something divine if you're steady blaming the situation, steady blaming the person, steady stuck in the past, bro, sis. How are you going to be able to see the beauty in the negativity? How are you going to be able to see the lesson if you're so focused on the problem? It's like when a teacher marks your answer wrong on a test and you're so focused on that when they're going over the answers after the test is over, you're not hearing the rest of the questions and why that answer is the way that it is. You're not hearing it because you're so focused on it. You're so mad about the question being wrong. How could I ever be wrong? But that's the thing. How could you ever be wrong? Right? How could you ever be wrong? Every wrong choice, stop seeing it as wrong, stop seeing it as final, but see it as something that is leading you to the right direction. See it as redirection. See it as that. Truthfully, men and women are the same thing. 2 sides of the same coin. But you can't understand one without the other. You can't have one without the other. All this stuff about who's the prize and all this stuff, that's ego. Ego. As far as I'm concerned, men and women ain't shit. Both y'all niggas ain't shit. Unless you step up to the plate as a spiritual being. Humans in general ain't shit. Unless you step up to the plate as a spiritual being. Because if you look at the history of humanity, if this is where we're at after millions of years of running this planet, that this goes for you, black gods, black goddess. If this is really it, as far as humanity gets, and this is the end of our story, this is how far we've come. If this is really the apex of all that we can really be, it's sad. And yeah, we've done a lot here. Black god, black goddess. We've done a lot, but if this is it, that's a problem too. Your focus should be to go beyond these limiting perceptions of who's the prize. The fact that we've degenerated our mindset so far to that makes humans no different than animals. And truthfully, let's be real, humans are no different than animals. Actually, most of the humans here are still in their animal nature. The only thing that separates a human from an animal is his ability to elevate spiritually. His self-awareness, his spiritual consciousness, to move up out of that. But as far as I'm concerned, humans are still part of the animal kingdom. Because everything that you do is to fulfill that. These groups, this TRP group, the feminism group, and all the splinter, the female dating strategies, all these things, all it is just animal nature. It's trying to tap into your animal nature and keep you at a low vibration. They're teaching you into being a robot or being an animal. Having you do things in structured ways, not even being true to yourself. Telling you to treat other people a certain way, how to talk to a woman, how to talk to a man, how to do this to a woman, how to do that to a man. That's animal shit. They're teaching you how to be an animal. And on top of that, your emotions, because you're so weak emotionally and you don't want to do anything about it, besides find anything and everything to support your victimhood, because it's too scary to look at yourself, your emotions allow you to be manipulated. And the cycle continues again and again until you get the lesson. And it might take years to get the lesson. It might take 5 lives to get that lesson. Are you willing to wait that many lives to understand? Because I'm not. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Start looking at it as, what is the lesson in this for me? That's 2 different mindsets. I forgot what the book was called. I think it's called Mind or something. I have to look at it. But in essence, or it's called Mindset. I'll put the link in the description when I find the book. But it tells you there's 2 different types of mindsets, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. The fixed mindset, you can only think in one direction. A fixed mindset is, I'm not talented enough to do that. And a growth mindset is, how do I learn to do that? What can I do to accomplish this? A fixed mindset is that of blame. And a growth mindset is that of, how can I move past this? What is the lesson in this? What is this going to teach me? That's just real. So what type of mindset are you going to be in? Man or woman? Are you going to be in a fixed mindset, or are you going to be in a growth mindset? Because whichever you choose will determine where you go spiritually. Absolutely. So let's get all this lower chakra nonsense together, because if you don't get it together, you're not doing any of this cool shit that that you're supposed to already know how to do, by the way. You're not going to get past it. I had somebody tell me before, she's like, "Oh, I don't have to do chakra work, blah blah. That's just something that, that's for you, blah blah. I don't have to do any of that." Somebody I knew personally. And I'm like, okay, well, it's just a suggestion, look into it. Every part of spirituality is necessary. It's all a tool. You know what I mean? And I say this with no ego, but she's got the most fucked up blaming mindset ever. And it's also why I don't associate with that person. And I kept telling her, you got to work on the solar plexus. The solar plexus deals with blame. When you blame people, like I said in the other video, and you stay in that blame mindset, you stay in that fixed mindset, you have no spiritual power. Because all your power is going to the entities that are eating off the situation first, and to the other person. Wherever you're constantly saying, this is why my life is messed up, blah, blah, whatever you're blaming, instead of taking ownership for your part and fighting your fight and doing what you're supposed to do, that's what makes you lose power. But she wasn't hearing it. She any recommendation you would make, and this is an example, because you can make all the recommendations you want and people will still ask you the same questions instead of doing the research and the work for themselves. They rather listen to somebody else tell them exactly what to do while they tell their story, instead of saying, all right, well, I know my story, let me just figure this out. You have the ultimate respect when you can figure it out yourself and somebody's not telling you how to live your life. Because that's what those guys and girls in these propaganda circles, they're trying to teach you how to live your life. They're trying to profit off of you. And quite frankly, I'd even go as far as to say that a lot of them are agents, because they probably are. And instead of giving you the information and saying, hey, this is what I have to say, I trust that you can take it and figure out for yourself what's best for your life, they tell you, no, stay subscribed to me. No, buy this book. Sign up for these consultations. Keep coming back. Nothing wrong with running a business, don't get me wrong, but they'll tell you things and it'll leave you thirsty for more instead of giving you the absolute truth. Most of them are living their lives for show. Like I said, agents, they're probably up there talking something and living completely differently. The men and the women, especially if they're in relationships. You really think that they're with them having that much success and that much knowledge that they're going to apply those same things in their relationship? It's not going to work that way. And if they are, and they're, that's, it's not going to last. Or if it does last, it's not going to be healthy. As far as I'm concerned, those people eat, sleep, and shit the same way that you do. And they're no better than you the same way that I'm no better than you. But they always leave something to be desired. That's how you can tell whether they're for you, whether they're actually helping you or not. And a lot of times they'll come up and say all this shit and not give you anything to look or get reference from but the news and media and propaganda. agency, propaganda. That's all it is. Really, ultimately, it's about thinking for yourself and tapping into and having that emotional control over yourself. While I do appreciate if you know, those who are on the channel, ultimately, I don't want you to have to rely on my information. I really don't. Because we should all be self-sufficient by now, especially spiritually. And it's a problem that some of us aren't. It's a problem that we still have issues like male and female dynamics. Sexual dynamics, you still have problems with that. Still have problems with the way that the male and the female, masculine and feminine, expresses their sexuality. Because we lack acceptance of that within ourselves, so we don't accept others. That's a problem. And I feel within myself that I need to put my piece of the pie to try to fix that problem. That's real. Because the world that I can envision is a world greater than that. So let's get there. Let's do the spiritual work. Let's do the inner work. That's what's hot. You know what I'm saying? She could be hot as hell, and if she's not doing the spiritual work, that significantly drops the attraction. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. Because I know girls who are really doing the inner work, is it really attractive when you come across a guy who's not? And, you know, if you're in control and you're not really looking at the outer perception as much, you know, you start to see people for who and what they really are. The same way that you see the world for what it really is, you can see others. So it's going to take more than just a nice looking person to really, you know, for that to be it for you with whatever you choose to do. It's going to take a little bit more than that. Because I know for me it does. And it should for you too. Because obviously, if you treat yourself great and you do the best for yourself, and you constantly working on yourself, then you can attract up to your vibration. You know what I mean? That's what you really deserve. So do things from a growth mindset. That's how we can really get up out of this. And when you get up out of this, yeah, you're going to have to deal with the higher chakras, but that you can only deal with them when you let go of all this stuff in your lower chakras. And you have to study to understand it. I have a whole series on chakras that I'm going to have to link to this video because some of you are new, a lot of you are new and haven't seen it. But it'll do you good. And I'm actually going to update it soon too. The same way that I grow and that I update, I'm going to update things that I've done in the past as well. So I wish you all good luck on your journey. I hope this video helped. Peace.